I get it. I get that you want to show people on Instagram that you didn't just jump on a bandwagon and that you thought it was a sensible idea. No, I get that, right? I get it. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. I won't tell anyone that you're regretting it and you think it was stupid and you wish you hadn't. Yeah, I know.
Guys, I hate to say it, but we are at war. Liam dared to put out this propaganda saying that I regret starting the very foundation of my entire channel, the Small Board Gang. He's trying to start his own hashtag, bigger always better. Where it's not. It's all about the Small Board Gang. We need to rise up and defeat the enemy. The enemy is Liam and all the naysayers. We are Small Board Gang. We are 44 by 60. And we need to make sure everyone knows it. And I'm banging on my table at 25 to 1 in the morning. So rise up, Epic Gamers. Join Small Board Gang. And go on this video. Say hashtag Small Board Gang. Say bigger is always better for insecure men. Make sure he knows the Small Board Gang will rise up and be the ultimate gang. We're the biggest and baddest gang in Warhammer. 6x4 is for the old dudes, but the new generation of angry metalheads are here, like in the 80s. And we're here to tell you that 6x4 is dead, and it's all about 44 by 60. It ain't just a fad, Dad. It's here to stay, and we're gonna take Age of Sigmar 2. Join Small Board Gang. Hey guys, welcome back to Coffee Time. I hope you're having a great day. It is Sunday. It's Sunday morning at 10 AM and I have a huge announcement. I've decided that I'm going to call all of the videos where I sit and talk in front of the camera Coffee Time. I know, that was really huge. Obviously we make multiple of these videos at the minute and not just on Sundays. And I release them all at the same time, which you could say is time for coffee. We're going to call it Coffee Time. We're not going to call it tea time. We're always going to call it coffee time. And there's the announcement. Today I have a roast French blend from Aldi. I can't remember what it's called. Nice though. What coffee are you drinking today? If you're drinking tea, that's okay, as long as you're part of the Small Board Gang. But before we go any further, this video is sponsored by me. I couldn't get anyone to sponsor this video. Is this you? Having your dice all over, using coins as objective, trying to measure with one hand with a tape measure while holding a phone in the other hand? Well, clearly I'm not within 3 of this objective, but how do you have coins for objectives? You play Warhammer, you don't have any money. Not anymore. Well, this used to be me too. Look, here I am, all happy. Once you finish the game, what are you supposed to do with your dice? This is what I used to do. But not anymore. Not since Hellstormwargaming.co.uk/shop. In the store currently we have these awesome ITC ready objective markers with a 3-inch marked out so you can see exactly where 3 inches from the edge is. We also have these luscious handmade dice bags with a soft silky inside for more pleasurable dice. We also have our 9-inch whappy sticks in limited colours with all the important measurements like 9 inches and 3 inches and 6 inches and 2. But not 5. Together, you can play a better game of Warhammer by having better objective markers, nicer dice bags to hold your dice, and also this nice stick for light measuring when you really need to be really crucial, where a tape measure is a little bit more awkward to use. We also have some limited dice. We have some Danny signature dice, which are nearly out of stock. We will have a new batch of dice coming soon, but all of our colours are usually limited edition, so grab them while you can. These won't be back in stock for a long time. If you are interested in any of these products, go to Hellstormwargaming.co.uk/shop right now. There's a link in the description, and you can pick up all of these products right now. Again, a lot of these products are limited edition, so they won't be around forever, so make sure you grab them fast before everyone else does. Buy my merch. Please buy it. We have objectives in both white and dark grey. We have whappy sticks in just blue, but the colour coming very soon. And we also have these dice bags, which are really nice. And they're handmade by Neil's mum. So go to Hellstormwargaming.co.uk/shop today to grab your merch today. Otherwise, let's carry on with the video. So today, I've kind of struggled with this video, and I almost didn't do anything because I was just stressing, but I thought I'm just going to sit down and talk, which is what I normally do, but for some reason I was stressing about this one. Yesterday, War of the Spider, which is the new Psychic Awakening book, came out. I wanted to do a review of Salt on it, and I really didn't know how to go about it. The reason being is that I'm kind of reviewing this now, but I feel like most people already have seen it because loads of other channels have gone through leaks. Whilst I do read them, I don't like sharing them. So what I thought I'd do is I kind of spent a few hours, it's currently 10 p.m, to kind of like analyze this book as much as I can and try and get, rather than kind of reading it to you and telling you this is good and this is bad, I thought I'd come up with some interesting things that I've seen for each faction. So today I'm going to be looking at Death Guard in particular, and then maybe tomorrow or sometime during the week I'm going to drop 2 other videos where I'm talking about the Imperium, like Custodes and all the other stuff all together, and then I'll do one for the Chosen of Bile, which I'll be honest is probably going to be a short video. Yeah, so I thought I'd talk about a couple of combos that I've seen, but at the same time, if you've seen any other combos which I don't bring up, please leave them in the comments so we can get like a cool like Death Guard Tactica comment section. That's what I want to see, and hopefully we can get that, but if not, that is okay too. War of the Spider, it's 3 factions. I'll give you a quick overview what's in it if you haven't seen anything, which would be very strange. I'm basically going to be talking about a couple of combos that I've seen that you can mask up with the original Death Guard Codex and kind of see like some examples of what I'd say are nice combos. Essentially what this does is it adds 21 stratagems to the Death Guard, and the Death Guard were one of the first codexes, albeit the second, to come out of 8th edition, so nearly 3 years ago now, and they had 14 stratagems and 6 relics, and this adds another 6 relics and 21 stratagems to the base codex overall, because not only did they get stratagems and relics, they also got what are known as plague companies, and these are kind of similar to how Thousand Sons get their cults, they call it, but these are 7 plague companies. You don't get any extra rules. They're kind of like factions within Death Guard, but you don't get any special rules for being this plague company. What you do unlock is a keyword which lets you use 2 stratagems, a warlord trait, and a relic for each one. Now I should say that the keyword that is added is chosen per detachment, as you probably would expect, but everyone in the detachment gets it except for cultists, poxwalkers, and named characters, except for one of them, except for the Harbingers, where Typhus and Poxwalkers actually gain a keyword, because there is a specific stratagem for Poxwalkers. It's essentially Typhus's own. Is it Typhus' own or is it Typhus's own? That sounds weird. Don't think that's right. So they gain their own abilities, which are essentially specifically for Poxwalkers and Typhus, and they have the 2 stratagems in there, which is essentially the one they previewed, is Deep Striking Poxwalkers. So overall, a lot of the stratagems on their own look a little bit bare, but I think there's like a lot of stacking that can go on. What we're starting to see in these later Psychic Awakening is, rather than something quite obviously being broken and completely changing the army, what we're seeing is they're getting this in addition, where they're not breaking it, but they're also just bumping them up a power level, because they have so many more options with these stratagems. There's a couple of ones which are quite good. There's a couple of ones that are okay, and there's a couple of ones that on their own don't seem that good, on paper don't seem that good, but in practice they could be quite good. One that does jump out to me is Foul Gush, which is specifically for the Foul Blightspawn. So the Foul Blightspawn is currently a 77-point model who has strength 2d6 or auto hitting, -3 AP, 3 damage at like 9-inch range, and it's a really good weapon if you roll well. If you roll like average 7 on 2d6, it's strength 7 -3 and 3 damage, auto hitting at d6 shots. Really good. Essentially it's a really angry flamer, and these are characters as well, so they're really hard to target usually. So what Foul Gush does is only 1 CP, and use it in your shooting phase before you shoot a Foul Blightspawn until the end of the phase, when rolling to determine the number of attacks made with a plague sprayer by that model, roll 1 additional d6 and discard 1 of the dice. So on its own, that's really good. However, it says, in addition, until the end of the phase, when rolling to determine the strength characteristic of that weapon, roll 1d6 and discard 1 of the dice. So you're not only benefiting the amount of shots, you're also benefiting the strength at the same time. So this is like a really good stratagem for only 1 CP when you really need to kill something. Like one of these things can do like 15 damage at strength 12. Strength 12 -3 and 3 damage if you roll 6 shots, and that's rolling 3 6s in a row. But this is kind of just like improving the chances of that happening, which overall I think is really good. A lot of the other stratagems as well, they're kind of very much focused on Plague Marines and Death Guard infantry. For example, there's one that says Relentless Volleys, which is really good for both Plague Marines and Blight Lord Terminators. So Plague Marines usually see 2 combos. You see bolters and blight launchers, and then you see combat plague marines, and there's actually stratagems for both. So relentless volleys, it's 1 CP or 2 CP. In the shooting phase, when a Death Guard infantry unit is chosen to shoot with until the end of that phase, bolt guns and bolt gun profile or combi weapons models in that unit are equipped with have a type characteristic of rapid fire 2. In addition to the end of that phase, combi bolter models in that unit are equipped with type rapid fire 3. If it contains 6 or more, this stratagem costs 2 CP. So this is really, really strong because Blightlord Terminators always rapid fire because of Hateful Volley, which is the bolter rule where essentially you always rapid fire if you're a Terminator, or if you're a infantry, like a normal Death Guard Marine, then you rapid fire at half range. These guys always rapid fire at 18-inch range anyway because of inexorable advance. So something like this on a small, like a unit of 5 with a couple of Blight launchers in there and having the bolters do more, but also on Blightlord Terminators where they all have a combi weapon, unless you've got the flail, having them rapid fire 3 so they all get 6 shots at 24-inch range is really, really good actually. Just to really absolutely nail that chaff unit you were already nailing with 4 shots. Now let's make it 6 shots for 1 CP, because you're probably going to use them in a unit of 5. There's also Trench Fighters, which is actually a really good stratagem as well. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when a Plague Marines unit from your army is chosen to fight with. Until the end of the phase, when a model in that unit fights, if it is equipped with 1 or more Plague Knives, it can make 1 additional attack with the Plague Knife. So that's pretty good, just to give them a few extra attacks as well. One thing to note as well is it doesn't say that these stratagems are limited to Death Guard Plague Marines. So you need a Death Guard detachment to unlock these stratagems, but you can actually use these stratagems on Chaos Space Marine Plague Marines. And I know that sounds confusing, but obviously Plague Marines as well as Rubric Marines are in the Chaos Space Marine Codex because you can take them in Black Legion detachments and Alpha Legion detachments, etc. So these stratagems can actually be used on those ones as well, which is really cool. So there's quite a lot of stratagems. I don't want to go through them all. There are a couple of like really standout ones, but what I really want to talk about is a couple of these Plague Companies. So I said there's 7 Plague Companies. If your army's Battleforged and includes any Death Guard detachment, you can select which Plague Company each of those detachments belongs to from the 7 listed on the following pages. If you do, all Death Guard units from that detachment, excluding Chaos Cultists, Potswalkers, and named characters such as Typhus, gain the relevant Plague Company. And then it kind of like explains. And essentially, each Plague Company has a Warlord trait, a relic, and 2 stratagems. Some of them are kind of like very fluffy and kind of okay, but some of them are like, I wouldn't say broken, but they are the standout from these companies. So I think what you're going to find with when you're building a list with Plague Companies, you're actually going to, well, currently before 9th edition, when 9th edition comes out, this video is probably out of date, I don't know, but we'll see. But what you're probably going to want to do is kind of move your units around to fully benefit from each Plague Company. So you might, for example, I'm going to be talking about the Poxmongers, which specifically really focuses on the demon engine aspect of an army of Death Guard. So you'd put all your demon engines into 1 detachment and making them Poxmongers, but then you take all your other stuff like your Poxwalkers and make them Harbingers, for example. So that's kind of how you probably want to build Plague Company, a company of companies, a limited I don't know what that counts as. So one that stood out to me is the Poxmongers, and it says, known to the many as the Poxmongers, the 5th Plague Company makes great use of deceased demon engines when it goes into battle. And again, you don't really get any benefit straight up, but you do get a Warlord trait, a relic, and then 2 stratagems. They have an interesting relic and a couple of really good stratagems, and the way that 9th edition is actually going to change the game completely, these can like really come into effect. So the Warlord trait is designed for melee against infantry units, so I initially thought this was shooting as well. If it was shooting as well, you'd obviously take this, but now you just wouldn't, because this is to do with getting armor penetration on your combat weapons. And as we said, if you're going to build this, so this is just demon engines, you're not going to have any real melee unless you're taking like defilers, and then you're not really playing to win anymore. You've got the Putrescent Relic, which is the Iron Clot Furnace. So models in Poxmonger Demon Engine units from your army have a 4+ invulnerable save whilst their unit is within 7 inches of a friendly model with this relic. Already that is really good because you have units that don't have an invulnerable save, such as Hellbrutes. I don't think Defilers do either. But then you also have your Plague Burst Crawlers, you have Myphitic Blight Haulers. They all have 5+ invulnerable save. Now they all have a 4+ while they're within 7 of this unit. And obviously it's not wholly within 7, it's just within 7. So you can actually get quite a lot in there, and that's like a really big buff on its own. So if you're playing Death Guard and using Plague Burst Crawlers, you can have one of these guys sat at the back who's probably going to be a Chaos Lord. He's probably going to be providing reroll 1s to hit because he's a Chaos Lord, and now he's got giving them a 4+ invulnerable save at the same time. And since the Warlord trait in this section isn't that great, you can also give him Arch Contaminator from the original Death Guard Codex, which is kind of like a no-brainer. What that does, it allows you to reroll all wounds with plague weapons. So what you can have is a Chaos Lord with 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, maybe 3 Myphitic Blight Haulers that are rerolling hits of 1, that are rerolling wounds because they have plague weapons. The Myphitic Blight Haulers aren't, but you know, the Plague Burst Crawlers are with the Plague Spitters and stuff. And now you're also giving them a 4+ invulnerable save, just making them even more durable. They already have a 5+ Disgusting Resilient, so now you're making them even more durable, and they've already got the same damage output that they already had, which I think is like a really nice combo. There's also some decent stratagems. You've got Bilious Blood Rush. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase. Select one Poxmonger Demon Engine unit from your army. Until the end of that phase, that unit can shoot in the turn which it fell back. So the great thing is as well is it allocates units rather than models, because you do have Mythic Blight Haulers that come in units. So if they do get tagged, they're not that great in combat. Now you can pull out and shoot with your missile launcher and your multi-melter, which is pretty good. At the same time, in come 9th edition, the vehicles aren't going to be suffering the heavy penalty. So now your Plague Burst Crawlers with their mortars that normally hit on 5s because they want to move with their flamers. They can move 10 inches. Your Lord can advance. They can shoot, re-rolling wounds. They have a full plus invulnerable save, and now one of them can pull out of combat and shoot again. Or shoot in combat. Okay. You have the Flux Abated. Use this stratagem in your fight phase when enemy model is destroyed as a result of attack made by a Poxmonger's Demon Engine from your army. One model in that unit can regain D3 lost wounds. So again, this is pretty good for my Mythic Blight Haulers because they have more attacks than Plague Burst Crawlers. They're still not that great, but I think this is like pretty decent if you got one that's kind of like running on fumes, as it were. Get it? Fumes, Death Guard, amazing. So the other combo I wanted to talk about, it's kind of based on an old competitive build, which is still pretty good, and it's essentially based around Possessed. So if you're not interested in hearing about Possessed, then thank you very much for watching, but we're going to talk about them next. So the Possessed Bomb, as it's known, is a 20-man Possessed unit, which, when buffed up with loads of different characters, loads of different stratagems, can delete anything Imperium quite happily, and delete anything else in the game quite happily as well, but especially Imperium. And you saw this do really well. It actually got to the top 8 at Las Vegas Open, but what you can kind of do is you can kind of run a CP and point budget friendly Possessed Bomb, more like a distraction rather than the entire army build, using the Death Guard stratagems. And it takes a little bit more finesse to do, but again, because you're kind of not using as many points to kind of make this work, and you're kind of not using as many CP to make it work, this isn't designed to say this is the new Possessed Bomb. It is kind of saying this is how you can make Possessed work really well in a Death Guard army, where you have other stuff like Plague Burst Crawlers, etc. that are still doing the work. So the main one is they always had Cloud of Flies, so that's one CP stratagem from the main book. You can't target an infantry unit unless it's the closest. The Death Guard also got a basic stratagem in the new codex, in the new supplement, called Wormspitter. So it's a bolt pistol. I mean, this is kind of where it falls down a little bit, but it's kind of like, it's not perfect, but it's a way you could run the Possessed Bomb as Death Guard. You got Wormspitter. It's a 15-inch pistol, strength 5, -2 and 1 damage. So it's a plague weapon, so it rerolls 1s to wound naturally. Obviously, if you're near the Arch Contaminate, you're rerolling everything. But it's got a really interesting ability for a pistol, where if a hit is scored, the target is corroded until the end of the turn. When resolving an attack made by a weapon by a friendly Death Guard model against the corroded unit, that weapon gains the Plague Weapon ability for that attack. On paper, it sounds like, okay, that's cool, but if you think about this, is if you really need to kill a particular unit, you can make everything have a Plague Weapon, and then you can have everything reroll wounds against it, which is actually quite good for such a random little pistol just like tucked away in your army, which people probably won't think about when you maybe deep strike like deep strike a character with a bolt pistol and you roll a hit. It's on a 2 rerolling 1 sometimes. It's obviously a little bit janky, but it's quite interesting because they think about it like I was just spoke about. We just had Mythic Blight Haulers rerolling hits of 1. Now if they shoot this particular unit that you've hit with your bolt pistol, then shooting your multi-melters are plague weapons. Which is very bizarre. When I initially read this, I thought it was melee only, but it just says when resolving with an attack made with a weapon by a friendly Death Guard model against a corroded unit. It doesn't say that it has to be in combat. So this is actually quite an interesting relic. Again, very janky, a bit tricksy, but hear me out. You're possessed, are rerolling 1s to wound naturally because they have plague weapons against this particular target. If they're near the Lord who has the Arch Contaminator Warlord trait, now they're rerolling all wounds, and they can use Veterans of the Long War as well to give them +1 to wound, which is really, really cool. Really, really cool. And this also opens up a lot more. So because the Death Guard and the Nurgle, you can obviously cast Miasma of Pestilence on them, so when the possessed can be shot, when they're not being targeted with Cloud of Flies, you can also say, alright, well, now they're -1 to hit. Decent, not too shabby. Now when they're attacking, they have plague weapons. So you can actually cast Blades of Putrefaction on them, so they get +1 to wound. So with Veterans of the Long War, you can actually get +2 to wound. And if you roll a 7+, which is actually a 5 because you got +2, you do a mortal wound in addition to any other damage. So we don't know how a modifier is going to work in 9th edition, but as of today, you can get them to do more wounds on a 5+. And this is to hit them with a relic and to cast 2 psychic powers. To hit them with a bolt pistol on a 2+ rerolling. So whilst you don't have the Master of Possession, which is usually someone who's quite crucial for a possessed bomb, then you can actually get some quite interesting damage output from a unit possessed, which people would be like, why have you got possessed in Death Guard? And it's like, chuck some Plague Burst Crawlers in front of them, you can't target them, and Plague Burst Crawlers have a 4+ invulnerable save and Disgusting Resilient, and then you can also get them to do mortal wounds on a 5+ and +2 to wound. There's also Creeping Blight, which half works for possessed, because what this does is use this stratagem in the fight phase when a Death Guard unit from your army is chosen to fight with. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made by a weapon in that unit, add 1 to any damage roll made for that attack. Now, possessed don't roll for damage in any other normal way, so technically this ability does nothing. However, an unmodified wound roll of a 6, the armor penetration of that weapon is -4, which definitely does come into effect. So it's unmodified 6s, but still, that extra AP is nothing to be snuffed at. You can actually make it even more interesting. Like, the more I dive into this book, there's again, it's, as I said at the beginning, there's nothing that's openly broken, but there's lots of stacking stuff, which is really interesting. So if you ran this possessed bomb as Mortarian's Anvil Plague Company, then you actually gain a relic for a Tallyman. And you wouldn't normally take a Tallyman, but he can give you CP back, and he's a relatively cheap character. He does take up an elite slot, but hear me out. So there's a putrescent relic known as the Toll Keeper. So it's a Tallyman only. When resolving an attack made by a melee weapon by modeling Mortarian's Anvil unit from your army within 7 inches of a friendly model with this relic, an unmodified hit roll of a 6 causes an additional hit. So that is pretty decent, but a Tallyman naturally gives reroll all hit rolls to Death Guard infantry within 7. So now you've got, hear me out, let's start again. Let's break it down. We've got a 20-man possessed bomb who can reroll all hits in combat. If they roll a 6 to hit, then they get an extra hit. They also get +1 to wound with Veterans of the Long War. You could also cast a psychic power for Blades of Putrefaction, so they get another +1 to wound, so they have a +2 to wound. In addition, they also do mortal wounds on a 5+. Also, if they roll an unmodified wound roll of a 6 with Creeping Blight, they're AP -4 on those attacks. Now, let's make it even more interesting, because there's another stratagem in Mortarian's Anvil called Relaptic Assault. Use this stratagem in your opponent's charge phase. Select 1 Mortarian's Anvil infantry unit from your army. Until the end of that phase, that unit can perform heroic interventions. So now, this is quite interesting. So you've got a possessed bomb that can't be targeted, and then if your opponent gets too close, you can actually heroically intervene into it. So that is quite interesting, and I think that is something to, like, be aware of. I should note as well that you probably want to tie in some Thousand Sun Sorcerers to, like, use Warp Time and Prescience, etc. This is just looking particularly at Death Guard, but you obviously can make it way better with some allies. I said, I don't think this replaces the Death Guard, the Possessed Bomb as Alpha Legion or as Empress Children. I definitely think it's something that's very interesting. It's something I actually wanted to do, because we were talking about doing an ITC Best in Faction once again, and I was thinking about doing Nurgle. We were going to do My Dad's Bigger Than Your Dad, where we all chose a Chaos God, and I was going to do Nurgle, and Possessed Bomb was something I was thinking of. So this is a very interesting way you can kind of build a really, really good combat Possessed Bomb that kind of, rather than being obviously the bomb, it's like, I've got this and I just need a Psyker, a deep striking character that can shoot a bolt pistol, and then the actual Possessed themselves. So it actually works out as, rather than being the entire army, it's a portion of your army, and you can actually buff stuff up again with the Poxmongers having all the good demon engines, and maybe some Plague Marines in there as well. But that's my thoughts. That's some of the interesting things that I've taken away from the Death Guard supplement. As I said, if you've seen any cool combos, then post in the comments down below. Let's get like a forum of cool, awesome Death Guard tactics using War of the Spider. Otherwise, guys, if you enjoyed the video, then do share it to your friends. Click like if you like it. If you don't like it, then dislike it. But tell me why you disliked it, because I want to be better and I want you to like it next time. Otherwise, please subscribe to the channel. I really, really do hope you can join us in the next one. I'm going to be doing a couple more videos, some more coffee times throughout the week. We're going to be looking at the Imperium, and we're also going to be looking at Chosen of Bile. But I don't know. A lot of it seems a bit meh, but we'll see. I don't know. It's interesting because it's kind of like, I really want to be excited about these books, but I'm also more excited about 9th edition. So these books are kind of like, whatever. Maybe you feel the same. Let me know. Join the Small Board Gang. The Small Board Gang is our family. It's the coolest Warhammer gang in town. It can financially support the channel. There's 3 levels, and there's Primaris. When we get back to doing battle reports, which is kind of like what this channel's based on, you'll get access to all of them. All the ones that are available on the website will also be available for Primaris Small Board Gang. Otherwise, guys, have a great day. Hope you enjoyed this video. Need to stop saying that. Bye-bye.